Are you looking for a delicious way to use up those fresh summer fruits, but not put too big of a dent in your bites, points, or calories? Well, I have the perfect solution for you here. This is my summer berry clafoutis, a French dessert that sounds fancy but is so easy to come together. And you can make it any time of year using all sorts of fruits. Doesn't have to be summer berries. So if you'd like to see how this is made, stick around because it's coming up next. Hello and welcome to my kitchen. My name's Roy. I'm a home cook and amateur baker, and I'm here on this channel sharing recipes that have helped me to lose over 125 pounds, whether those recipes are mine or someone else's. Now today is one of mine, and it is a take on the French classic dessert clafoutis. If you've never heard of it, I'm not surprised. It's not a very common dessert, especially here in America, but it is very good. It's almost like the French cousin of a flan, except we're adding fruit to this. Now, as you saw from the thumbnail, no doubt I'm doing a summer berry clafoutis. Now, typically, a clafoutis is really only made with cherries. Anything else is considered, and I may be mispronouncing this, a flognard. But here in America, we just call them all clafoutis. Now, as I said, I'm doing summer berry, but you don't have to. You can do any kind of fruit that you want in this. You'll just want about the same amount of fruit that I'm going to be using, and you may want to cut down some larger fruits or make sure they're thinly sliced, like peaches or things like that. So you can use other fruits, but because summer is coming up, I figured what better to use than some summer berries. So before we get our clafoutis on, let's go over those ingredients. I have here my cooking spray. You can use baking spray if you want. I'm using a 9-inch pie plate. You could use a cake pan, but you will be cutting this in the pan, so just be aware of that. You could also use an 8-inch pie plate. You would just have to cook it a little bit longer, but that's also an option. Here I have 1 1/4 cups of almond milk, and that is at room temperature. With baking, you always want your ingredients at room temperature. I know I say that all the time, but it is fairly important to make sure that everything gets combined accurately for baking. I have here 3 eggs, and those are at room temperature, and that is going to be the custard base of our dessert. I have here 2 cups of mixed berries. I'm using strawberries that I've cut up and blueberries, 1 cup of each. To get 1 cup of strawberries cut up, you would need about 6 large blueberries, 5 or 6. So you really don't need that many. But as I said, you can do 2 cups of anything. You could use peaches, you could use pears, you can use rhubarb, you can use whatever you like. Just make sure you have about 2 cups. I have here 1/2 cup of sugar replacement. I'm using the In the Raw sugar replacement, which is the one that we have been using lately. I've given up on Swerve because of the aftertaste, and we really enjoy this one. We don't get an aftertaste from it. Here I have 1/2 cup of flour, and that is going to help bind all of our ingredients together and give it more structure. I have here 1 tablespoon of vanilla, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and this last ingredient is optional, and I'm actually using the real thing. I have here 1 teaspoon of confectioner sugar, and that's just going to be to dust the top of this. You don't have to use it, and you can use a confectioner sugar replacement, which I often do, but 1 teaspoon is not going to alter the bites or points. So I'm okay with using it, and that should be enough to dust the top. All right, so those are all of the ingredients. That's all we need for this delicious dessert. So let me shuffle a few things around and we will get started. All right, so first things first, easiest step in the recipe. We're just going to take our fruit and put them into the bottom of our pie plate here and just spread that out a little bit so that it is covering the bottom of our pie plate. Now this is what you would do with any fruit that you're using. is just put it into the bottom of the pie plate. So if you are using apples or something with a little more structure, you may want to cook it down just a little bit to soften them up before you do this. Or if you cut the pieces small enough, it probably won't even be a problem. So I'm going to set that aside for now and bring in a medium bowl, to which I'm going to add in the eggs. And the first step is just to break up these eggs, and you just want to whisk them together. Okay, so that's pretty well homogeneous. It's all one color. You may see little flecks of the white in there, but we're still going to be working this a little bit more, so don't worry too much about that. Now I'm going to add in the sugar replacement, the vanilla extract, and the salt. And now we're just going to do the same thing, just mix that to combine about another 30 seconds to a minute. Because this isn't real sugar, it doesn't always want to incorporate as easily. So you just want to make sure that you work it until that sugar replacement is well mixed in. Okay, so that looks good. Now I'm going to add in the flour and just whisk that in as well. And you want to be careful. You want to make sure you don't create a big flour shower, and scrape down the sides and just whisk that until it's smooth and the flour is fully incorporated. And that's pretty good right there. There's no real clumps of flour in there anymore. So now we're going to take our milk and we're just going to whisk that in. And I'm going to do that as I'm pouring it, just to help to loosen everything up in here. And so I don't have a big pool of milk on the top, and it's going to want to slosh around. This way it incorporates a little better than having all of the milk floating on top and you're trying to get it in. So just whisk that to combine everything together. And now we're going to bring our berries in and just pour this right on top of the berries. And yes, they will start to float a little bit or move around, that's fine. I'm going to scrape all of that down into our pie dish here. And now I'm going to just give it a little shake, because what I want to do is get some air bubbles that have come to the top and just pop them. I just use a little paper towel. You could use a knife, a fork, a spoon, what have you. You just want to get rid of a lot of the air bubbles so you don't have a lot of air bubbles in the finished dessert. And I just like using a paper towel because there's one less dish to wash. Not that it's a lot, but every little bit helps. Okay, and that looks pretty good. There's still a few little bubbles, but that's not going to harm anything. I mostly wanted to get rid of any bigger ones. So now this is going into a 350-degree oven for anywhere from 45 to 55 minutes. And you will see that it puffs up quite a bit, and it'll get brown, especially around the edges, and a toothpick inserted in the center will come out clean. So 45 to 55 minutes, and I'll be back with our delicious Clafoutis. This is after 1/2 hour. You can see that the edges are starting to puff up and get lightly brown, but the center is still flat and sunken in, and that is at the 1/2 hour mark. So I will show you a little more progress later on. Now, this is after 40 minutes, and you can see that the sides have puffed up even more. They're getting a little brown at the edge there, but the center is still flat. It's not going to puff up as much as the outside edge is, but it is going to puff up more than it is now. So I'll be back with more progress. Okay, and there we are at 50 minutes. You can see the center has puffed up quite a bit more. It's not level with the outer edge, but it's up there. So I'm going to now take a toothpick and see if it comes out clean. All right, so there we have our summerberry Clafoutis. Now, it's very puffed at the moment. It is not going to stay that way. As it cools, it's going to shrink and compact into a delicious custard. Now, I'm going to let this cool at least 10 minutes. You can serve it warm, you can serve it at room temperature, or you can serve it as we prefer it, chilled in the refrigerator. I usually let this cool completely and then put it in the refrigerator so it really sets up and has a nice custard texture. But warm room temperature or refrigerated, it is delicious. Now I have over here my teaspoon of confectioner sugar and a little sieve, and what I'll do, once this is cooled and I'm ready to serve it, you can do it over individual pieces, but once it's cooled down and we've refrigerated it, I will dump the powdered sugar into the sieve and just tap it all around. You just want a light dusting. You don't want a lot on there. So 1 teaspoon should be plenty. But of course you could do more if you want. You could do some whipped cream. We've done that. Some fat-free whipped cream. Delicious. Now you can already see that it's shrunken down quite a bit, and it's only been about 2 minutes that it's been out. Now, I'm doing this as 6 servings because you know me, I like a generous serving if I can get it. And there is no difference in bites or points. I mean, unless it's on the new plan. I'm going by the Healthy Better Balanced plan and the old WW Blue plan. The new plan, I'm not that familiar with, but I know it's close to blue. But 6 or 8 servings is going to be the same number of bites or old blue points. You could honestly even do 7 if you cut it in half and did 3 on one side and then 4 on the other. So if people wanted a smaller piece, they could take from this side, or a larger piece, take it from that side. So there are options. But for 6 or 8 servings, this is going to be only 1 Better Balanced bite or old blue point. I know. Dessert for 1 bite or point? Sign me up. Now here, when I go over calories and macros, I'm going to be doing them as 6 servings. 6 or 8 are going to be different, obviously, in calories and macros. But for 6 servings, if you are following calories, 1 serving will only be 109 calories. And if you are following macros, the fat would be 3.4 grams. The saturated fat would be 0.8 grams. The protein would be 4.5 grams. And if you needed to bulk up your protein, you could swap out a little bit of the flour for some protein powder if you'd like to. The carbs are 29.6 grams. The fiber is 1.7 grams. And the sugars are 1.7 grams as well, going by 1/6 of this Clafoutis. But you can see it has shrunk down quite a bit. There is a little bit of the fruit juice still in there because it's still warm. That's fine. As it cools, that will thicken up a bit. You could serve it now. It's been about 10 minutes or so. But as I said, we prefer it refrigerated, but warm, room temperature, or refrigerated. Either way you can serve it. A little sprinkle of powdered sugar, and you have a great dessert. Now, if you enjoyed this video and this recipe, I'd appreciate you doing the usual. Like, subscribe, comment, share, and hit the notification bell for the next time I upload any sort of video. I know we have a tag coming up this coming Tuesday, the 13th. We also have on the 18th a collab coming up for picnic ideas. And I'll give you a hint, I'm doing a German potato salad. So hit that notification bell for the next time any sort of video goes up. Now, if you want the recipe for this, it will be linked directly down in the description box, as well as the link to the blog itself if you're looking for any of my recipes. And while I'm mentioning the blog, I finally found a way to have it so you can print them rather than having to copy and paste or copy and print. At the bottom of the recipe, only on the computer, not on the phone for some reason, you will find a little printer icon at the bottom of the page. Should be the last icon. You just hit that and it will print out a version for you. So hallelujah, we finally have a way to print them directly from the site without having to do too much work. Also in the description box, there is a link to a site called Buy Me a Coffee, which is kind of like Patreon. If you are able to support the channel in that way, I would appreciate it. Also down there, you'll find the usual things like my Amazon storefront and my social media. So there's an Instagram and 3 Facebook groups that I'm part of. So go check out the description box for all sorts of information. So I'm going to let this cool and then refrigerate it. And I know what we're having after dinner this evening. I can't wait. And I hope you will be enjoying some yourself. So until next time, bye.